Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Chris here with a new video. Welcome to part 1 of What If Deku Had Daredevil's Powers. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Smash! One hefty blow was all it took. Powerful gusts blew off the slime villain from the students, much to the excitement of the spectators. Yet again, the number one hero saved the day. Midoriya coughed out the dust in his lungs. He got to his feet with much chagrin, his cheeks flushed red, dusting his uniform. Had he been a step too late? No. It was just Midoriya's rotten luck that made him trip over his feet. Luckily, All Might was there to save the day. What hero trips over his own feet? Midoriya said to himself, slapping his palm to his forehead. At least Kacchan's alright. I thought All Might took care of that villain earlier. Midoriya watched the proceedings as the villain was bottled up and Bakugo was checked up on. Midoriya saw something. The road was sealed off during the altercation, but a truck was speeding down the other side of the road wildly with no intentions of braking. And with its course, All Might would be hit. He looked around. No one seemed to notice besides him. Naturally, he would shout out in warning, but it seemed the universe has given him this chance to redeem himself. Move! That one instruction his brain had to every cell in his body. Midoriya raced out from the crowd towards All Might. All Might! Watch out! This was his time. Midoriya didn't have a quirk, but he knew he was destined to be a hero. He had already experienced a wild day, considering he met All Might. He'd been told by his idol it was impossible, that he couldn't be a hero quirkless. He was hurt, but not discouraged. With this, he'd show All Might he could be a hero just like him. The truck tore past the barriers set up. Some heroes had been able to lunge out of the way to avoid being hit, but All Might has his attention on Bakugo. But it wasn't a problem for the number one hero. Even with the truck right behind him, the ghastly gasps around him told him something was up. He turned his head to see the truck swivel towards him. The hero had already worked out a plan. With his palm wide open, he planned to halt the truck to a stop, but Midoriya's yell disoriented him. Huh? That slight moment took All Might's attention off the truck as he sharply turned to see Midoriya charging him. Midoriya tackled All Might hard. He drove his shoulders into the hero's midsection, using every ounce of strength within his muscles to push All Might out of the way. The force was enough to send All Might tumbling into Bakugo. The two rolled out of harm's way amidst the confusion. Luckily, Midoriya was a few inches away from where All Might previously was as the truck swerved through them, narrowly missing him. Sadly, he wasn't lucky enough. With the swerve, the bus drove itself all the way into a convenience store, shattering glass and metal, stopping in its tracks. But not before it emptied cans of glowing ooze on Midoriya during the swerve. Oh, what? What is this? Midoriya staggered. He was bathed, standing in a pool of this weird liquid. Then it started to hurt. He rubbed his eyes with his red, mucky hands. The liquid had gotten into his eyes and it felt like they were being roasted. Ah! My eyes! It hurts! Get it off! He yelled pleadingly. Midoriya tumbled to the ground, rubbing his eyes frantically as he cried for help. All Might, getting his bearings, rushed over to Midoriya's side. He remembered the boy from earlier today. Why did he try to save him, All Might wondered. All Might could have easily handled the situation and come out unscathed. Are you all right, boy? The hero knew it was a rhetorical question. Whatever that liquid was, it was hurting the boy. Get the medics here, now! All Might yelled to the heroes around. He pulled off his shirt and used it to wipe off the muck from Midoriya, avoiding the red substance. Midoriya was seeing clouds of black eating holes in his vision. Like a picture burning, the holes increased. He managed to look up one last time to see All Might before everything blacked out. All Might, I can't see, Midoriya called out from within the darkness. Don't worry, young lad. We'll get you proper treatment, All Might replied, distraught. Midoriya could feel himself being lifted onto something soft. A stretcher probably, as he was wheeled away. He could hear the incoherent murmur of the spectators before he eventually faded away to unconsciousness. His dream was restless. Everyone felt so big in it. They looked down on him from high above with a look of disgust on their face. You'll never be a hero. You're not special. You're worthless. They all chanted in unison. His mom, Bakugo, his teacher, classmates, and even All Might. No! Don't say that! I can! I'll become a hero! He yelled back, but his words were drowned out in the loud choir. Midoriya startled awake. He fluttered his eyes once, twice, Nothing. He saw nothing. It was all dark. He felt a soft material wrapped around his eyes. "Where am I?" He called out confused, trying to sit up. A warm hand gripped him softly. He knew it was his mom instantly, and as she spoke, he could sense the fear in her tone. "We're in the hospital, honey. That accident caused this, but you'll be fine. You'll recover in no time," Inko said, trying to hold back tears. Midoriya's heart broke. He hated to hear his mom in a state of panic. He was more concerned for her than he was for himself, but that was only one of his concerns. He was hearing everything. So many things entered his ears all at once. He twisted his head from left to right, trying to identify the sounds and the directions they were coming from. From the littlest sound to the loudest, he heard it all. His smell, too, was off the charts as well. The flowers growing outside his window, he could hear their rustling as they brushed against each other. He could perceive their scent clearly, but didn't know what flower it was exactly. Midoriya's odd movements made his mom concerned. "Izuku, are you all right?" Inko questioned. "Someone's coming," Izuku said, completely ignoring the question. The sway of a long piece of clothing as it continually hit another clothing material as the person walked. From the sounds this person's clothes made, it felt like light material designed to be comfortable. Midoriya listened for the sound of shoes against the hard tile, but all he heard was the squishy sound of rubber. It was hard for him to discern the smell of the individual from the pungent bleach smell the hospital had, but he suspected it was a man, given the rhythm in his strides and the deep tone in which his breaths came. How did he know the man was coming to his room? He listened to his pace, observing as it slowed down on probably noticing Midoriya's room. He could also hear the spike in this man's heartbeat, almost like he had something that troubled him. Probably bad news. Midoriya heard a deep breath and the tightening of a grip on the metal handle before the door opened. 30 seconds after he made the statement, his door opened, leaving Inko even more perplexed, considering the fact her son couldn't see and his eyes were bandaged. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'd like to speak to you outside," the doctor said. His tone sounded solemn. Even Inko could tell it was bad news as she followed him out of the room. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, and Safari. If it's a browser, it has Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, Kohl's, wherever you shop. It's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out at these major sites is click that orange button and it'll scan the entire internet and find discount codes for you. It takes 2 clicks to install Honey. Now, anytime you check out, Honey will scan the entire internet and find coupon codes for you. If there is a coupon code, they will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you're getting the best price possible and there's literally not one available on the internet. If you install Honey right now, you can save like $50 to $100 on your shopping. Doing nothing. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks. 10 million people use it. 100,000 5-star reviews. And unless you hate money, you should really install Honey. "I'm sorry, but your son may never regain his sight again. We ran some tests, and whatever this substance was, damaged his optical organs beyond repair." Midoriya heard them. The doctor had tried to take his mom out of his hearing range, but with his weird developments, he heard it loud and clear. The sobs of his mom was even louder. He smelt her salty tears as they rushed like a flood. All at once, he hated being able to hear everything. He wanted to turn off all these sounds he was hearing, all the strange things he was able to smell. Midoriya put his hands to his ears to shut them out, but it didn't work. He could hear himself even with his silent sobbing. "I really can't be a hero," he whispered to himself, hoping no one had as good of hearing as he had now. Izuku spent a week in the hospital before being discharged. He got visits from the heroes at the scene, All Might, and even Bakugo, though Bakugo never entered the room to see him. His friend simply came up to the door and left. Midoriya wondered if Bakugo felt guilty about the whole situation. All Might did, and it was clear in his voice and tone. He told Midoriya he saw him as a hero, apologizing for telling him it was impossible to be one. Midoriya didn't tell All Might about the changes he was noticing in himself. He wondered if it was all in his head, his brain interpreting false information to make up for his sight loss. He wasn't quite sure what was going on either, but with the passing days he got more acquainted hearing and smelling things. He had a constant headache from the noises in his head, but he was able to identify a few things from a speculative guess, some which his mom affirmed and some he got wrong. His senses had become astounding. They were slowly developing over time. Midoriya knew it, but didn't read too much into it. He heard somewhere that blind people had their other senses amplified, but to this degree? He wasn't sure. At home, he had to slowly familiarize himself with where everything was. Midoriya could distinguish objects from touch, but it wasn't good enough. He kept bumping into things regularly. Multiple sounds and smells left him confused. Think you have what it takes to become the next pro hero? Then come on down to the UA entrance exams. An advert for the entrance exams played on the TV. Midoriya rushed out of the shower without rinsing. He'd forgotten about the entrance exams completely. I have to go for the exams, Midoriya muttered to himself silently. He knew he needed to go, but he also questioned if he could actually get in, considering he was blind and all. Could these strange abilities he was acquiring get him into UA? He wasn't sure, but he had to try. Midoriya wasn't going to let his dreams slip away easily. Mom, you know these few days, I've realized something. My senses are off the charts. That goo took my sight away, but I think it gave me powers. I could smell things from afar off. Like the garbage man. He just spilled over our trash can. Now he's picking off stale tofu from the ground, or is that ramen? And I can tell you're making curry rice. It smells really spicy. You know I hate it spicy. So I think I could still be a hero like I... Midoriya poured out everything from his head. He knew what his mom's reply would be, and when she cut him off, Izuku's heart dropped a bit. Inko slammed her spoon on the counter hard, her voice shaky as she yelled. Enough, Midoriya! Enough! Haven't you put me through enough already? Haven't you put yourself through enough? We're in this mess because of heroism. Now you're like this. You still want to put yourself in harm's way. I won't let you! Inko screamed at Midoriya, sobbing hard. The boy felt his mother's pain, but at the same time he felt angry. Why couldn't she understand it was all he ever wanted? Why wasn't she more supportive of his dream right from when he was younger? When they found out he was quirkless, she wasn't there with the moral support he needed. You just don't understand! And you've never tried to! Midoriya yelled. He felt his face flushed red with anger as he stumbled towards the door. He felt around, fiddling with the handle till he opened the door and rushed out of the apartment. Izuku, come back! Where are you going? Inko called after him. Midoriya ran out into the walkway and straight into the road, planning to run across. Maybe it was his rush of emotions, but Midoriya was not able to or didn't pay attention to his heightened senses. A sharp horn blared out, halting his movement. The horn sounded close in proximity with him. He didn't have the time to focus his other senses. He needed to see what was coming. That urgency seemingly activated something within Midoriya's head. Low radio waves would emit from his brain. Quick and precise, they would come in contact with objects around his 360 proximity. Bouncing off these objects, the signals returned back to his brain where the information was processed. In his head, Midoriya got a crude sketch of his surroundings. He could see part of the pavements, the road, and the incoming motorcycle about to hit him, all in colors of red. He saw it, but didn't have the time to react. Midoriya cringed and shut his eyes, waiting for collision. Midoriya focused his newly acquired radar sense on his savior to get a picture of his hero. The mental picture of the man came in a crude style. A lean, at least 6-foot-tall male. His hair appeared to be a mess. That was all Midoriya got. You've got to be careful crossing these roads, the hero Eraserhead said. Taking a look at Midoriya, he instantly recognized the boy from the news. You're not supposed to be out in the streets alone. The hero continued in a calmer tone. He intended to give the boy a good scolding till he realized it was the boy from the accident. So you're just gonna treat me like some blind person, just like everyone else? I don't even know you! Midoriya yelled ungratefully at his savior. He put his back to the man running down the streets. Midoriya? Come back, Midoriya! His mom cried out for Midoriya as she came out of the house, searching the streets frantically. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll return him back to you. I'm a hero. Eraserhead assured her, running after Midoriya. He easily caught up with the boy. Eraserhead lashed out his binding cloth with a skillful flick of his wrist. The cloth aimed to grab Midoriya fast around his torso and restrain him. Midoriya heard the crunch of the cloth when Eraserhead grabbed it. The weird material gave off an odd sound from behind him as it tore through the air with a sharp whistling sound. Whatever it was headed for him. Midoriya stopped in his tracks sharply. He turned and caught the cloth in his hand just before it did what it was intended, much to the astonishment of the hero. That wasn't something a person who was visually impaired could pull off. Dodging his binding cloth for regular people was a feat of its own, but sensing it and catching it, it was a different ballgame entirely. You can see? How did you do that? Eraserhead asked the boy, quite puzzled. No, I can't. But I could hear it coming, Midoriya said. Just the same way I figured out who you are. At first I wasn't sure. Your voice sounded familiar since I've studied you, but the images I'm seeing in my head are fuzzy. But you're Eraserhead, right? This bind cloth. You're the only hero who uses them. It could be the rush or emotions, but Midoriya confided his strange developments to Eraserhead. From his hearing, smell, touch, and even the weird thing that happened just before he got saved. Midoriya told him everything. Eraserhead breathed. He took a minute to absorb everything he heard and think of what he wanted to say. Even after everything, you still want to be a hero? Let's assume these powers are real. Do you think your mom would want that for you? She's been through so much already. Eraserhead asked as he and the green-haired boy sat on the stairs of Midoriya's house after he'd returned the boy to his mother and asked to have a minute to talk to him. Midoriya felt a bit hurt when Eraserhead used the word assumed. He was sure of what he was experiencing. I know she wouldn't want it, but if I can prove to her these abilities are real, if I can show her I'm not a liability to myself or her and master what I've been given, I think she'll understand me. Midoriya replied to the hero with resolve. Do you really want to be a hero? Eraserhead asked after a very long pause. More than getting my sight back. Will you help me? Midoriya asked. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't think I'm afforded the time to do so with the upcoming entrance exam, but I think I know someone who might. Eraserhead replied, getting off the stairs. You know a hero who can teach me to use these powers? Midoriya asked with a certain hopeful tone to his voice. Hero? I wouldn't call him that. His line of work doesn't really fall under the law, but he's on the right track in a sense. I'll give him your address and have him come see you, Midoriya. Now go inside and apologize to your mother. Eraserhead finished. He took his leave walking down the streets. Oh, and if you actually do have these abilities, and what you did back there wasn't a fluke, then I want to see you in a UA uniform in some months' time, Eraserhead said, charging the boy with a motivation before he continued his walk. Midoriya went into his home with so much food for thought, and his dreams reignited. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we'd just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all of the incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.